this fine day at Sinister Creature Con.
I'm sorry, I was talking.
I just asked how you were doing here at Sinister.
Oh, I'm doing great, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Great. So I want to start off with a couple of questions. Naomi and Geretta, what is your character transformation like? What does it take place, or when does it take place? Like during the application time, like in your own alone prep time? Like how do you transform into your characters?
Better?
Okay, sure. So, yeah, I kind of tend to go from the outside in. So I did all the really heavy lifting well before the makeup came, into the picture. I did, I watched Schlitzie, that is the real life microcephalic after whom Pepper was modeled. I watched him on a loop. I rented Freaks, the 1933 film. I think I might still have it. I think the video store went out of business. But anyway, I watched it until it didn't work anymore. And I worked with a coach, and we sort of created like a whole backstory for Pepper. So all that stuff, like, finding out how to kind of walk and talk and really do all that, I did well before the makeup came on. Then I find, sitting in the chair, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of like going to a wig store or something. For me, I put on a long brunette mane, and I like all of a sudden I just become Sofia Vergara, just like that. So it's a similar thing. Like, I lay back, close my eyes. They apply the makeup, and 2.5 hours later, I wake back up because I have much to do.
Did Aaron do your makeup?
Aaron
and Mike?
yeah.
Aaron and Mike?
Yep. So
two really incredibly talented makeup artists, very dear friends of mine.
Oh, awesome.
Aaron Kruger-McCash and Mike McCash, her husband.
Yeah. Erin is the head of makeup at Horror Story, and her husband, Mike, and another gentleman, Christopher Nelson, would sort of split me down the side, and one would take one side and the other would take the other. And then, yes, so to answer your question, at the end, I just kind of like, at the end, I become Pepper. It was similar to that, wig experience. But like I said, obviously it took weeks of really kind of figuring out how to, truly emulate her, Schlitzie.
Nice.
Hi, so Geretta, and I think in my case, so I played the monster in 2 films, and so there's a little bit of a spoiler alert here if you haven't seen Rats. But if you haven't seen it and you see it later, what you'll see at the end, I'm playing both characters. And so one of them is the monster and the other one is myself. And to answer the question, like, how do I sort of prep? So the other monster that I'm sort of most known for is Rosemary and Demons. So I have the demonic transformation, and I go from this, which I would say is gorgeous, to this really, really scary, horrific mistress of the devil, basically, that I infect everybody in the world. And I think in my case, it's definitely, because one, I would say I probably didn't have the talent that everybody else has, so in my case, it's definitely from the makeup. So once I start applying the makeup, that's when my transformation starts to kick in. And so in Demons, I was channeling all the classic horror I had seen as a child with my mom, and the horror channel used to be, I'm from Oregon, so the horror channel was only on Sundays and it was in black and white. So I always saw The Mummy, I always saw like King Kong movies, and I'm old enough that zombies didn't move fast yet. So all the Living Dead used to be slow. So the Living Dead. So for me, as they were putting the makeup on me, and it's sort of like my first big movie, my only kind of prep was what had I seen and what did I want to emulate. So the shoulder drops down, the one leg gets draggy, and I'm looking around, and in my mind, once I had the goo, so my hands were 6 hours, and my face was another 5, so I had a 12-hour day in Italian cinema, but I only shot for about 5 minutes. And so with the panic of God on me, because I'm like, I cannot blow this in front of all these important people, I would be mentally deciding what is so mine is probably makeup and physical. So what am I going to do to my body to make it change around? So by the time I did demons later, but we'll pretend I did rats first, since I mentioned first. But in rats, it's more sci-fi, and it's in the future, and we have bad food, and then some weird thing happens in space, and so the humans over time have adapted into rats. But we are not little ones, we're this size ones. But we can't really talk. So both times when I transfer into monsters, I never have vocal cords, as it was written in these stories. So that was the other thing. So my big key is, for me, was why would I can't speak. So the demon couldn't speak and the rat couldn't speak. In my mind it was, why would I assume, like an actor, you know, you're a young actor, I was 21, right? That time I would think, well, yeah, I'm a monster, I can talk too. No, in my mind I went, well, why would I assume that I can understand human beings? And that was the big key for me. Like, they can't understand me, and I can't understand them. So that's how I do my transformation.
Nice. Now, V, for you, how does it work to be putting the application and the makeup on and watching actors transform in front of you?
Well, yeah, it's awesome because a lot of times I've talked to many actors about that, and like a really good example of that is when we were doing Pirates of the Caribbean. Joel Harlow, who was working with me on that film, did the Bootstrap Bill character, and Bootstrap Bill, through the course of all the films, went through probably about 8 transformations. Like, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and originally only the first 3 phases of his look were supposed to be done makeup, and then we were going to do him CGI like we did all of Davy Jones's characters. And Stellan asked us, he said, well, can you keep making the makeups? Because he said, I really like wearing the makeup and it really helps me act and yada yada. So we went to production and we said, can you give us more money, because Stellan wants to wear makeup instead of being CGI? And they went, oh, okay. So we wound up doing all of his whole transformation in makeup. So by the time we got to the end of it, he was laden with, I mean, we had a big hump on his back and he had the coral out of his head. I mean, he had so much going on, and it was actually heavy. So for him, it was a big transformational thing to see him progress in this character that way, which really helped him as far as makeup goes. And then another time, I was just thinking of a kind of cute story. I did a film called Dick Tracy, and all the characters in it were like, you know, from the comic book. And I did Al Pacino's makeup, so he was the lead guy, he was Big Boy. And, you know, I really forgot how handsome Al Pacino was, because I'd make him up in the morning, and then, you know, he'd turn in, the minute like half the time he would fall asleep when I was putting his makeup on. So when he woke up, he went to sleep, this handsome Italian man, and he woke up this hideous little thing spitting and screaming and, you know, doing all these things. But it was like such an incredible transformation. It's like I said, it was, you know, he would just go to sleep one way and wake up and look immediately in the mirror and freak out. And Danny DeVito did the same thing as the Penguin. So
I'm glad
when
I'm
I would,
the only one falling asleep in the chair.
no, they all fell asleep.
Okay,
I mean, funny, Al Pacino fell asleep one morning, and I was gluing around his nose, and his head went like this, and then my brush went right up his nose. I said, oh my God, that was a rude awakening. And he said, I'll be more careful. And I said, yeah, I'll try to. But you know, it's like the same thing happened, like Danny DeVito, who was an absolute doll, you know, and I put that penguin makeup on him, and all of a sudden he'd be snorting and, you know, growling and spitting, and, you know, it's like, oh my God, you know, just, the makeup really helps the actors to achieve their character, and if it's done well, it's even better, you know. So I think makeup's really important to actors.
I feel like, I mean, as a character actor, the further away from me, the easier.
Yeah.
Like, when they're like, oh, just be yourself, I'm like, why would I be that? Like, I could be a reality star if that's what I wanted to be. Like, I don't want to be that. I want to be, like, as far as possible.
Yeah, it's kind of like Johnny Depp. I mean, he really enjoys being some weirdo in every single movie he does. And I'm kind of like, it's kind of a bummer, because I feel that Johnny is such a good actor. I would love to see him just get back to doing like normal movies for just a minute, you know, maybe do one normal movie, you know. Can we get him hired again after the hideous thing that happened to him? And it's like, but you know, he loves being somebody else. So what the heck, you know? He has to be himself in real life, and he can't go anywhere. So he can
Well,
might as
it's
well
very,
be something
and
funny.
for actors, it's very addictive because you get to really play behind the fantastic makeup
Yeah.
and things that you give us. So in a way, you're not just putting yourself out there because it still gives you this little layer that you're hiding behind. So
Yeah.
I can see why, you know, why he would enjoy it.
Yeah, and he loved Captain Jack. Oh my God, he loved being Captain Jack so much.
So, V, what has been one of your favorite experiences from judging Face Off? And then if you guys have followed it, do you guys have a favorite episode or artist from Face Off that you guys like as well?
Do you even know anybody from Face Off?
I wasn't Erin.
No, she was
Never?
not. No.
Sorry,
It's okay. But no, I mean, I've sort of stayed friends with some of the kids that were on the show, and there's some really talented ones. In fact, Connor, who was the winner of the very first season, was on the Hunger Games with me. So I had him on the Hunger Games movies with me. And then I also had Tate, who was also on first season. I helped Tate get in the New York Union when I was there on Amazing Spider-Man. I had him helping me do some stuff, and he said, you know, I have all my days, but I can't get in. So I called up the head of the union for 798 in New York and put in a good word for him, and bing, get a boom.
That's
We
great.
got in.
Great.
Obviously, Erin wasn't a contestant, but she wasn't even a guest judge ever.
She might have been on as a guest. My God, it's been so long, I can't remember now.
I can't say I watched, but I did recently guest judge, and what do I know about makeup other than falling asleep in the chair? But there's a new show that's going to be coming out called Painted with Raven. Raven, the drag queen, who is a phenomenal makeup artist in his own right, has a new show, and you know, she's fabulous, and the contestants are amazing, and it was so cool to watch because I'm not privy to that whole competition, you know, reality world, and they would shoot it like, okay, next week you know, we want to see this by next week. Well, next week they were next day.
Yeah, of course.
So I mean, and they were churning those looks out. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was impressive even if it had been next week, but knowing that these 3 looks that they had to come up with that were over the course of, you know, however long,
Right.
were really just over the course of a couple hours. It was very impressive. I have mad
What
respect.
channel is it going to be on?
You know, it's World of Wonder. I want to say, RuPaul is on what?
MTV Paramount Plus.
There you go. So it's the same
Oh, gotcha.
peaks.
V, I wanted to ask you, so the makeup artists in Italy were mostly my career took place because I only lived in the United States sort of half my life. Most people who get into it, it's through family, and then because there's not like a school or competition series as much. So I'm curious, how do people get started in doing makeup here?
There's a lot of schools here. In fact, I'm opening up a school this year.
Oh, that's great.
I really want the artists to, you know, get the benefit of having teachers that have worked in the business and that still are currently working in the business. So I've set the school up so that the classes are in 1-week increments. So even professionals can come and take them. Like if they wanted, like, you know, somebody, like for instance, I was telling somebody earlier, I have people constantly saying, well, I don't really know how to lay hair that well. Are you going to teach that? And again, there's going to be 1 week dedicated to just laying hair. So if that's all you want to learn, you can come take 1 week. Because a lot of the schools, what they'll do is they'll make you buy like $30,000 for like a whole course. And I didn't want to do that because a lot of times you're taking classes that you really don't want to take and it slows down all the other students. So the way I'm going to set it up, it's like you'll be taking the classes you want to take from people who really know what they're doing, and you'll get to learn those things really well. So, cool. Thought I'd try something new.
All right, so I have a curveball of a question for all of you.
Oh boy.
If Tim Burton directed an episode of American Horror Story, what do you think it would be like?
I don't know, but there'd be a lot of people with black circles around their eyes.
that is a curveball. You know, the most recent episode I just did of Horror Stories, the new spin-off series, was actually directed by the director of The Blair Witch, the original, Eduardo Sanchez. So that was cool for me to be like, oh my God, like that's one of my favorite horror movies, and now all of a sudden he's directing me. So, you know, it's not like that episode was like found footage, you know, Blair Witch. So I agree, Tim Burton is a true auteur and has his own sort of staple stamp he puts on everything. So, and I think Black Circles is that's a good call. But I don't know. I just know I want to be in that. I want to be in that episode.
Oh, I definitely think if it was me and I'm trying to guess what he would do, it's going to be little tiny miniature people, kind of like dolls, but moving like robots, running around stabbing big, huge-sized people. That's what I think. I can write it too.
Movie, didn't they?
I think those are called mosquitoes.
Definitely his version, they would be. It'd be killer mosquitoes. Yeah.
V, are you jumping on to do all the dark circles to help Tim out?
Oh, he doesn't need me. Anybody can do that.
So what inspired you guys to get into makeup and acting and start pursuing this career that you have now?
I'm going to let them talk because I've told my story too many times and I'm bored with it.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
I'll go. So, for me, let's see. I always liked film, and just like you hear so many people saying, and this is my boring part, I really wanted to write, and I really wanted to be a director, but there was just absolutely no way for women or my kind of woman that was going to happen. So I had this long plan, and I left home when I was about 18. I went to FIT in New York to learn costuming and all this stuff, and then I started doing off-Broadway and got into some movies and things, and I always had this long projection that I would get to direct. But in the meantime, you know how life is what happens in between your teenage plan. I was very fortunate. Well, it's two things. So in New York, when I was being cast, my acting resume said, hooker, prostitute, prostitute with a heart of gold, thin hooker, pretty hooker. Because I am the girl that I am, right? So my type, and I was thin, I was a thin, pretty black girl, so I got all the hooker parts in America. Fortunately, I went to Italy, and there was just that preconceived cinematic vision did not exist. So in Italy, I played the monster, I played the sci-fi captain in space, my specialty, and I want to get back to the thing you said about wigs. In Italy, and I agree with you, help teach wigs here. Because when we're in Italy and we look at the wig work, we giggle. Like, people really do need to know how to do wigs. And there's this place called Rocchetti. I mean, I'm talking wigs from Elizabeth Taylor, you know, Cleopatra. I mean, I would have bit parts and they would make me a whole wig just for me in a 13th century part where I was just the slave girl with the light python, you know? So all of these real techniques and things, as an actor, I wanted to learn all of those. And so I went to Europe because it gave me the opportunity to work in a lot of costumed makeup. I know what it is to so you mentioned that I'm the girl from Rats. So in Rats, one of the reasons talk about being ready, right? One of the reasons I got to play the monster, the real special stunt guy, who's a famous actor too, but he was really known for stunts, comes from a family of circus performers. So this guy can outperform anything I can do, right? I mean, his family can do the whole thing. He couldn't wear the super large contact lenses that the monster needed. They had bought these really big, weird colored contact lenses, and I could, because I had come up the ranks playing all these futuristic people. So they go, you can't, in Italy they call me John, and they're like, Gianna, can you pop that in your eye? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And so I end up playing the monster, and it keeps going. So what inspired me was to get through a door where I could play more than just the prostitute or the hooker, so my mother could stop crying about it. And my mom would say, but you're so nice, why? So I wanted to learn, so I learned makeup and hair and writing, and I went to school, and eventually with all of that acting behind me, I applied to the American Film Institute for writing and directing, and I got in. So it goes to show what makeup, wigs, and this stuff, and tape, and tape where it needs to go can teach you. So that's what got me going.
I obviously never learned hair, but as far as acting, I've just always been a performer. Like before, like I don't know, what's before fetus, embryo. I've just that's who I am. Like I don't know. I mean, I remember being a little girl. I was always I was fortunate enough to have parents that were. Exposed me to culture. We'd go to the ballet and the opera and the movies and theater, and I just wanted to be up there, you know. And sometimes I was. Sometimes they were like, "Get back in your seat." Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like it's almost like akin to like being gay. Like you just know.
You just know.
Like, and there's no going back. Like you can't pray the gay away. You can't like. Make me a non-performer.
Yeah, you
like,
can't pray the performer.
No, I wish. I have prayed for that, and it doesn't work. Like and it's part of what had made like the first part of the lockdown so difficult is that I was just like, what am I without my audience? Like if I didn't have like eyes on me, if it's just me in a room, like boring. So I really I get. You know, we get our energy in different ways, and I absolutely am like getting energy right now. So thank you. Yeah.
All right.
You want me to answer still?
Yeah. If you have a little bit of a story.
Well, I mean, I always wanted to do makeup since I was like 5 years old, and my next door neighbor was a makeup man, and I remember just saying to him all the time, I said, "Oh, I want to do what you do when I grow up," and he'd go, "Yeah, sure, kid," because back when I was little. Women weren't makeup artists, it was only men. In fact, they didn't even let women in until the 70s. I was one of the first 5 women that got into the makeup union in the 70s. And I kind of fought my way in actually because I started working with rock bands, and I worked with this crazy little band that wanted pointed ears and big heads, and I said, "Hey, you know what?" I said, "I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to go find out." So I started going to science fiction conventions, and I met these guys. And I said, they were wearing Planet of the Apes makeups. They had the whole regalia on. They were like perfect, like they stepped right off the set. And I said, "Hey, you guys, where did you get those masks?" And they all got indignant with me, and they said, "These aren't masks, they're makeups." And I went, "Even better, where'd you get them?" And they said, "We made them." And I said, "Cool, will you teach me?" And they said, "But you're a girl." And I said, "I know, isn't it fabulous?"
Good for you. Good for you.
And that's kind of how it started. They taught me how to do it, and I was better than they were, and before you knew it, I got in the union, and Bob's your uncle. That's the real short story of it.
All right, so being actors or actresses and working in the makeup industry, what's a director that you wish to work with? And we know you have, an extensive catalog, but is there somebody out there that you are like fiending to work with that you guys want to get on projects with, or that would be like a real wish come true for you?
I think I'd like to work with Guillermo del Toro, but I mean, I am fortunately or unfortunately for somebody retired, so I doubt that that's going to happen now.
You can always come out of retirement,
Yeah,
especially
I
for
if he
Guillermo.
called me, I'd say, "Oh, okay."
You hear that, Guillermo? Caller? Come on.
I wouldn't even probably hesitate that long, But,
Yeah, I want to put me in coach.
got it.
I was gonna say when I had this flash of when I kind of fangirled in front of Darren Aronofsky at Sundance. It was fine. It was late. He'd been drinking, so had I. Who cared? But it was one of those moments where I was like, "Oh, I really want to work with him. Like, why? So that's what came to mind."
Good one. It's a good one.
For me, so I'm sort of the transformations that I do, they're somewhat contemporary, so it could be hair, it could be costume, it could just be great false eyelashes. So I'm not usually like, big hump on my back or something like that. So for me, it would be Tarantino, it would be, now his head just went out of my mind, John Waters, because I would totally want to do something so divine or something great. I want to wear a diaper and something like that. and then if I can bring by somebody from the dead, and if you know my career, I can Hitchcock for sure.
Yeah, that would be
Hitchcock.
amazing.
And just have him turn me into whatever. Have him turn me into Tippi Hedren.
Ooh.
That would be a lot of special effects and a lot of makeup. So I vote for that. But those three, can you imagine? I think any of them would have fun with
That's
me.
a big range.
Yeah.
That's
It
nice.
is, right?
Yeah, it's good. I think
I want to add.
Go add for it.
She
Add.
got 3.
You can add away.
Competitive actors.
I've
Watch the
always
blood at noon.
wanted to be. I've always wanted to be on SNL. So yes,
Right?
if I get to choose, I would just Lorne Michaels.
Lorne Michaels.
But also, if y'all are familiar with Pedro Almodovar,
Oh, God, yes.
Spanish filmmaker, total auteur as well. He
would
Women
love
on the
you.
Verge from totally.
Yeah, he would.
Women on the Verge from
Nervous
Nervous
Breakdown.
Breakdown,
Tie Me Up,
Matador,
Tie Me Down.
Tie Me Down, Kika, the Skin You're In, you name it. His specialty is like hot, ugly women. He has a whole thing, Almodovar girls, and I totally think I could be one of them. Like these just like interesting types, like
Go
not
to
girl
Madrid,
next door.
You will meet him in 5 minutes, and
Oh my
he will be in his
god!
films.
All right,
He would totally
On
like
my
you.
way.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm getting a plane tonight to Madrid. Let's go. Okay, so V, I have a more random, isolated question for you. Is there a product that you absolutely love that you were using all the time that they discontinued on you and that you're really mad about?
well, they're discontinuing the damn things all the time. I can't even remember. Now, there is one product that I just found a bottle of the other day, which is amazing. It was, the thing about when you're doing prosthetics, you're always worried about everybody's skin. You want to take care of their skin, especially if they're just being repeated, right? There was this product that I used to use years ago called Master Shot.
Wow.
And it was almost like a gel serum, and I would use it especially on men because, well, I mostly did men. But under prosthetics, you could put it on and it would never inhibit the glue from working. And it was something that I always started with, and I never had a problem with anybody getting irritated skin afterwards, and of course I do the hot towels and all the groovy shit at the end of the night, but that was kind of a product. They discontinued it, and I was going through my storage the other day looking for something for somebody, and I found a brand new bottle, unopened. They haven't sold it for years, so I'm hoping it's still good because I think I'm going to take it to a chemist and remake it, only better.
Do it.
You can totally do that.
Do it.
It's one of those kind of things that really helps your skin, nourishes the skin, and most of you probably haven't worn extensive prosthetics, but when you do wear them and you wear them every day, your skin really, it takes a toll on your skin because you're basically ripping something off your face every day. Even though you're doing it gently, you're still ripping it off your face. So it's something that we really, try to do our best to take care of the skin underneath. So I guess that's the only thing that comes to mind. And I think of that now because it's topical. I just found it the other day.
How about you guys? Is there a product that you use that you're upset is gone?
I'm sad the Pepper Funko Pops are gone. I've seen more today than I've seen around, but those things are expensive. I can't even afford my own.
I don't even know what that is.
Those little dolls. There's one.
Look, they have.
You signed
Yeah.
all those one earlier.
They're not
Like
anymore?
little action figures.
They don't make them She has one right here.
The Pepper one has been discontinued, so they're very expensive, very hard to come by, which I suppose is good.
It's a compliment.
It is, but
Why don't
I
you
just wish
call-
I hadn't.
Why don't you just call the company and have them make you one?
I could do
No,
that. I
I
think
bet you they'd make you probably a dozen of them
maybe,
if you ask you.
maybe. I just know
What?
that.
Have them make you a couple of cases full and bring them to conventions with you because nobody will have them but you.
But
That
you.
would be great. Not that I want to travel to, have a whole.
They don't weigh that much. You're
No.
good.
You know what? You just ship them ahead of time. It'll be worth it.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Especially if they cost a lot of money when you sell them.
They told me they're vaulted, which means they're
You're welcome.
discontinued. But I'll try.
Oh, they didn't get rid of the molds. I trust me.
That's true.
Good point.
I'm still waiting for a Ve
That's
Neill
true.
Funko Pop. Anybody want to?
Yeah.
Jump on a petition for that. We need a makeup master series of Funko Pops. There you
I
go.
have a product.
That would be good.
What is it?
I have a product.
Go for it.
that I remember. So there's, well, again, sorry, it's going to be more than one. So the old school pancake, the real
Yeah,
old
the
school
Max Factor.
pancake makeup. So another thing in my early career, I had eczema. And there was nothing here that would cover it, but they had one in Italy. And for me to do these movies, because I don't know why in sci-fi you always don't have any clothes on, or very little, right? So they could cover my whole body with the old school pancake, and it didn't come off. Number 2 is there used to be this rubber band that the hair people in Italy knew, and it was this kind of like rubber band thing, but what it could do is it would just give you like a inexpensive mini facelift. So the hair people, they would take your hair, tie it up like this, and they would pull it all the way up, and it would pull all this up and all this up, and it was this rubber
Damn,
band.
girl, I want one of those.
I'm telling you. I know, look, I'm ready, right? It worked. But the rubber bands they have here, it pulls your hair out. But it really worked, because before that, people used to use tape. They would put the tape here and hide it under the hair, and that never worked. This one, you're all gonna want this one, okay? Number 3 is from Revlon, Charles Revson, and it was called, when I was like 17, this older woman, she was all 31, told me, oh, this is the thing, and when you're older, you're gonna wanna remember this, you're gonna wanna remember it. And it was this cream, and you can put it on before you shoot, that skin looks moist, and it's called Eterna 27.
Oh, I remember that.
Dude, I know. Listen, it's gone. They don't sell it in America anymore. They only sell it online, or they only sell it in Canada, because it's got some product in it that we consider dangerous. It's a protogenogen or something like that. So I'm doing Horrorama last year in Toronto, and I'm like, oh, nobody's gonna know. And I buy like a case of it, try to put it in my suitcase, and go through, whatever the police thing is now. You don't even want to know. And it was for this chemical that's in it. That's how
Really?
big.
They took it away from you?
Yeah. They said this is almost like ISIS. You can't go through this. You could have checked them, and you can't have it in your bag. So Eterna 27. Because it's supposed to be eternally, you'll look 27. And I started movies in the 80s, so yeah, that shit's working.
All right, do we have a few questions from our audience? Any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, so I have a question for V. What advice would you give to a mom who has a very talented makeup artist daughter?
Send her to my school.
Okay.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Perfect. We're going to open probably this winter.
Yay.
Where?
Studio City, California.
Oh, I love Studio City. That's a
Go
great
ahead,
location.
hon. Yeah. Favorite actor that you've worked with?
Anybody?
Well, I've done probably 7 or 8 movies with Johnny Depp, and he was always fantastic. Wonderful. I mean, because I've worked with him so much, I guess he would have been one of my favorite actors to work with. I also did all the Hunger Games with Jennifer Lawrence, and she was an absolute doll, so she was always very sweet. And I also work a lot with Woody Harrelson. In fact, if Woody called me, I'd come out of retirement too, because he's fabulous.
The Dick Tracy was with Madonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
Let's put it this way. Everybody was so afraid of her. She had her own makeup artist, and they would work off the lot in a trailer off the lot because he couldn't come on the lot. And she, at one point she plays this character called No Face, which means she wears this mask that has no face on it, so she can't see. And the boys who designed the makeup said, V, we're going to send you over to fit Madonna with her mask. And I said, boy, are you guys a couple of chicken shits. And they said, well, you're probably the only one that can handle her. And I said, okay, fine. I mean, I've said maybe one word to the woman the whole movie, right? Because why would I talk to her? I never really saw her. She was always by herself. And screwing the director, and I was like, okay, so
He was her boyfriend
did
at the
I talk
time.
out of turn there? I mean,
Well, he was her boyfriend at the
Yes.
time, to be fair.
so anyway, so I go to her dressing room and I've got this mask, and the reason we had to fit it for her was because I had to cut breathing channels in it, because the foam was real thick in the front, and in order for her to be able to breathe, because there's no holes, nothing, I had to cut channels all the way down the front of this thing, and it velcroed up the back of her head, and I had to get all of her hair tucked in and everything. And so I'm in her trailer with her, or in her dressing somewhere, some trailer with her, trying to fit this, and she starts wiggling and shaking her head. She goes, "You're pulling my hair." And I said, "Dude, you got to stand still." I said, "If you don't want me to pull your hair," I said, "quit wiggling around and let me get this goddamn thing on you so we can fit you." And she kind of like froze. I don't think anybody had ever told her to do anything, And I said, "That's better. Now we'll continue." So I got her all in it. I marked everything and stuff. And the next time I came back to fit her with the thing, she goes, "Okay." She didn't move. She just like let me put it on her. I said, "Well, that was so much better this time." She goes, "Thank you, V." But I mean, you don't want to die in this thing, lady? Hold still, for God's sake,
I would say Jessica Lange. I mean, there's not a bad apple in the bunch on that show, but with everyone you have kind of a different rapport, and certain people bring certain things out of you, and I don't know, Jessica is just acting royalty to me, and she's one of those people that I never really unclinched my butt around her, I was always acutely aware of who I was with, unlike others where after a while you're like, yeah, whatever, Kathy Bates, Sarah Paul, whatever, but with Jessica Lange was just a master acting class every day. So that'd be my favorite.
Okay, we'll take one more question and then we've got to wrap it up. Go ahead, right over here.
I mean, for those who didn't hear, what was it like coming back as the same character twice when most people were doing new ones? It was unprecedented. It was very exciting because we'd never seen that before. I was thrilled because, for one, when I came into that show, I was billed as a co-star, which is basically one up from extra, right? I was I became a guest star, but I really I was an unknown, and I honestly thought that I was a glorified extra, one of an army of pinheads. And then when it turned out I was the pinhead, and then, like I said, that they broke their own rules to bring me back. I personally wasn't done with Pepper. I was watching on Wednesday the same as the rest of y'all, going, wait, what? She died? I'm dead? What? And so it was thrilling to be like, oh, good. I wasn't done playing her. So now, let's do this again. But it was also kind of mind-blowing because we'd never seen that before. I do remember being in the makeup trailer, and Ryan Murphy was there, and at that point, I'd been fit for the prosthetics again, and wardrobe, and I'd met Salty, and so it was pretty. I knew what I was doing, but this was before we started shooting. In fact, they hadn't yet cut my hair again, and this was for Freak Show. He said, "So, are you Pepper or?" And of course I was like, I don't know, dude, you're the boss. But let's decide, because they're coming with shears, but I think the concern was that if they did bring me back, are we still a limited series? Is it now a drama? Because, they like their Emmys. And why not? They win all of them, makeup especially. So, I think there was that concern, and in fact, if you watch If you watch the very first couple episodes of Freak Show, they don't even really call me by name. They refer to us as the humorous pinheads. And I think the idea is like, is it Pepper? I mean, obviously it was, but sort of an interesting anecdote when you go back and binge watch.
I'm gonna have to go binge watch all those shows again.
Yeah.
All right, do you guys have any projects that are upcoming that you want to share with everyone while they're here? You have school that's
I have a
opening.
school that's opening. That's my project. It's a big one.
And then for you ladies, anything?
I have a project that can't be mentioned at this moment, but there should be an announcement in November. And for everyone that loves horror, it's going to be a big one.
Ooh, stay
It's gonna be
tuned,
a
you
good
guys.
one. And I want to do a quick mention here because I was in this movie with someone that I've never told her how much working with her meant a lot to me, and it's Liza Minnelli.
Ah.
And I actually worked with Liza Minnelli. I was about 25 or 26, and it's in this movie called Rent-A-Cop. And it was Liza Minnelli, the late Burt Reynolds, and a lot of Italian actors, and Dionne Warwick. And she was in Rome and didn't have any other friends there, and she was exactly who you would imagine her to be. She was, now I'm gonna well up, she was so friendly to all of us, and we were all young actors, and she just hung around with us, and she was lovely. So if you ever want to see grace of someone really famous and they know where they are historically, they can be friendly to a bunch of American young actors, it was Liza Minnelli.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for coming to
Thank
the
you.
panel. They'll be going back to their tables. Go ahead.
I didn't get to say what I wanted.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. They have to come to my table, and I'll finish I'll do
Well,
my
you can
announcement.
tell them now. We can hold
Are
on
you
for a
sure to
second.
have
Yeah,
time?
go for it.
All right. Well, I have a new show that I've written, so I can talk about it because I own it. It's called American Horror Story with a W. It's a one-woman show. That's sort of my thing. In fact, I have two others that I did previously, which I have at the table if you're interested. This is a kind of companion piece to that. Ryan's on board, so it's all good. And of course, you guys may have just recently seen me in the new Horror Stories spinoff, which actually I had a crazy little makeup mishap, which I'll tell you about later. And if you guys come to the table, I'll tell you about too. So, yeah, that's
Come by for your mishap.
yeah. Do it.
I love mishap stories.
I like telling about them. I don't like being.
I don't like performing them.
No, thank you.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you. They're going to head back to their table. So if you guys want any autographs or any more interaction, you can head and meet them at their table. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, ladies.